All right, so our last topic today is going to be about Israel, and I don't know if you guys heard, but so EK, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I was told that the whole reason for Israel's mobilization was the fact that Hamas is in Gaza. Is that true? Am I correct on that assumption, EK?
I mean, I definitely heard it. Heard
Yeah,
Netanyahu say it enough. Heard U.S. elected officials say that plenty times. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've been told, but I found out that Israel is doing operations in the West Bank, which last I checked, not in the Gaza Strip. I mean, someone may want to correct my geography on that, but I'm pretty sure. So I just want to play this little clip here talking about the operations, and we'll see how this goes.
Can we just get your take on how troubling these raids are? Israel's foreign minister describing it as a war. What has been the reaction there, first of all?
Well, these are not just raids. It's a huge military operation. It's actually an act of war that is taking place, invading four major areas. But not only that, they are invading so many communities and villages all over the West Bank to arrest people. The most important thing here for the audience to understand is that the West Bank is an occupied territory by the Israeli army. We've been under Israeli military occupation since 57 years. And what Israel is doing now is conducting a war on occupied people, which is a total violation of any international law that rules how an occupying power should behave. They are using airstrikes, they are using Air Force, they are using tanks, they are using bulldozers. And what they try to do now in the West Bank is to transfer the acts of genocide and ethnic cleansing that they are doing in Gaza into the West Bank. And that is all done by this Israeli fascist government, which is run by illegal settlers like Smotrich and Ben Gvir, who are trying to destroy the whole infrastructure of these areas. And their goal is clear. Katz, the foreign minister of Israel, has just declared that ethnic cleansing should be conducted of the cities of the West Bank, including these refugee camps.
Okay, so what I wanted to draw everyone's attention to was what he said at the end right there, that Israel's foreign minister, his name is Israel Katz, and how he said that he's calling for ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. And so what the Israeli foreign minister said is, well, we're conducting these operations to stop terror groups because, you know, they're all over the place. You know, we have to stop the terrorists. It sounds suspiciously similar to what they're saying in Gaza. And to do so, we need all the Palestinians in this area to leave. Like all the Palestinian civilians, we need them to go. And while they're gone, then we're going to root out these terrorists. And to do so, we're going to conduct airstrikes. We're going to take bulldozers and knock down all the buildings. We're going to tear up all of the infrastructure, which is like a mirror image of what happened in Gaza. And I just for anyone who was questioning, if somehow you were still questioning what was happening in Gaza, was a very obvious premeditated ethnic cleansing and war crime. If you don't think it was, what does this look like to you? Like what if you were trying to do it yourself? Don't you think it would look a lot like this? I'm just curious. Like one, John and I were talking yesterday because what the Israeli government is saying is that, well, this is happening because Iran is getting involved, and Iran is sending militants down or funding militants in the West Bank, and this is our proxy war against Iran. And we were worried that this could, grow and metastasize into something more as Israel continues its proxy war with Iran. But it could also have its effects here domestically as long as we stay Israel's biggest cheerleader. Like, how do you think it's going to end up here, John?
Sorry, I muted myself.
No, sorry, wait a minute.
And then I forgot to unmute myself. No, isn't it weird how all of these terror cells happen to be located in Palestinian territory, but none of them have infiltrated any neighborhoods in Israel that have needed those in airstruck? Isn't that weird? Because if I don't know, if I was a terrorist group, I'd probably want to infiltrate my cells into the country I'm terrorizing, not the one that country's occupying. Because how does that help me? But no, it's just they just happen to be there, TJ. This is the same terrorists that were in Gaza, and they must have escaped Gaza, crossed across Israel, and then ended up in the West Bank.
Giant tunnel. giant tunnel from
they just tunneled under Israel, just fucking Shawshank Redemption into the West Bank. And it honestly, TJ, I've been supportive isn't the right word, but tolerant of Kamala's position on what's going on in Israel. This, and I mean, I haven't been tolerant of Biden's position, but I've just kind of resigned to myself to it's not going to change under Biden. The West Bank was always the one where it's like you can't, there's no arguments. Like
none.
Like Gaza, at least there's bad arguments to be made.
Yeah.
But there is a terrorist group there that did do very bad things. And without any like knowledge of the situation or anything, it's reasonable that a person would be like, yeah, a country has a right to defend itself against a terrorist group. That doesn't exist in the West Bank. Like, and they're not even fucking pretending. In fact, I wanted to share this quote because this isn't just me saying this, guys. This isn't just us saying this. I want to share this quote here from a member of the essentially, because I can't pronounce what it's actually called, the Knesset, the Israeli Congress, essentially, Ofer Kassif. And he said, this government, led by fascists like Netanyahu, Smotrich, and others, they are not interested in the security of anyone, including the Israelis, he told Al Jazeera from Tel Aviv. Kassif added the government's negligence in this handling of the captive situation. Had they had any kind of commitment to the security of the Israelis, the first thing the government would have done is to release the hostages. But they are not interested in that, he said. They are interested in the subjugation of the decisive palm, which boils down to annexing the Palestinians and the occupied Palestinian territories, deporting the Palestinians from their homeland and killing them. This is not some random, people that you're seeing online. This is not some hardline Palestinian supporters. This is a fucking Israeli congressman for American parlance. And this is exactly what is happening. Like that, we've been saying this has been happening. We've been saying this was going to be the next step. And you know what? I kind of doubted that it would. I didn't think that they'd go this far because it felt like there was probably a red line there. But goddamn, there has to be a red line drawn. Like this is what gets really bad. Like and Gaza was already really bad. But like if you let this keep going, this is like just appeasing Hitler all the fucking way. It's you just can't let this go on. What do you think, EK?
Yeah, like honestly, I'm surprised this didn't happen sooner. It's probably has to do with Biden stepping out because like not that I have a whole lot of hope for how Kamala would handle this situation, but I think they're trying to do as much as they possibly can right now while Biden is still the person in charge, being a lifelong Zionist as it is. But like, this is just, I mean, this was clearly the goal from the start, like another one of Israel's preemptive defense techniques. They're defending themselves by striking first. It's just so annoying. Like, I don't even have the freaking right words to say this. It's just disgusting, man. You're just doing this in front of everybody. Like, we can all see it. These people, like, we have the technology to see it. It's right out there in the open. Like the amount of stuff that we see and our government sees, like, isn't like there isn't a huge wide gulf between like both of our perspectives anymore, because like there's much better reporting out there. People have cell phones, people have social networks. Like, to harken way back to the start of this live stream, like stuff like Telegram exists where you just throw that unencrypted, and like, so I mean, it's like something has to be done. Like, there have to be red lines drawn. There's zero excuse. There's no Hamas in the West Bank. Like, there's no like armed like group out there that's going against people. Like, you already have people living in apartheid over there. You have people having to go through checkpoints and wake up super early just to cross into, let's cross the border into like official Israel to like go to work and everything like that. And they can get held up for hours upon hours. You have more babies being delivered like out in the streets, in people's cars because they're still held up at the checkpoint. Like these are not people, that are like actively attacking like their oppressors or anything like that. They're just trying, to make it to the next day, survive, hopefully be able, to not lose their house. So it's just, it's so damn frustrating to watch this over and over and over, and just completely escalate and progress. And we do nothing about that over here. Like we can put brakes on. We don't have to send them 20 billion goddamn dollars. Like we can be like, hey, this is enough. Enough is enough.
Yeah. What I'm interested in seeing over the coming weeks is the defenses from the American populace. Like, I'm really interested to see what people say who have spent like the better part of a year now saying that, listen, I know it's a tragedy, I know it's sad, but October 7th happened, so all those kids need to die. I mean, that's basically what people have been saying for the better part of a year. What are they going to say about the West Bank? I've got to know. I've got to know, because if they come right out and say, well, when the Israeli government says that there's terror cells in the West Bank and they need to evacuate all these cities and raise these cities to the ground, I believe them without a hint of suspicion. I was like, okay, not only are you immoral, but you're a goddamn idiot. There's no way you can believe that's actually accurate. And as far as the red line goes, this is interesting to me as well, because like if Harris comes out and says, all right, I'm not going to support anything in the West Bank, I don't see how that's going to be a bad statement. I really don't. Because, I mean, with your regular American citizen, you could convince them after October 7th. Yeah, like John said, you had this terror incident that happened. A lot of people were kidnapped. A lot of people died. They don't know the history of what goes on in Gaza and the West Bank, or the geopolitical and social relationships between the Israeli government and Hamas. They don't understand the intricacies, but they had this visceral action that took place where a lot of innocent people died. Okay, like anyone would think that they should respond to that. There's nothing like that in the West Bank. They're going to try to tie it back to October 7th because, interestingly enough, since October 7th, they have been conducting operations in the West Bank. It's gotten a lot less press, but they've been in there for a long time. But now they're amping it up. I just don't see how. I don't know how much political capital you could actually lose by saying, all right, we're not doing anything more. You guys can do whatever the hell you want. You guys are a sovereign nation, but we're not going to give you a dime, or we're not going to give you any weapons for this as long as you continue this operation, on the eastern side of the country. I don't know. What do you think about that, John?
So 80% of Democrats already are for an arms embargo. I don't know what that looks like across the entire country. But I know one American who is not for an arms embargo, and that is one Joseph Robinette Biden.
Yeah.
And that is really the big, I don't know, to all of this is how much of Kamala's position on Israel is her own. How much of it is Joe Biden telling her how far she can go while still being the vice president of the United States under his administration. I don't know. I don't know what mechanisms that the president has to enforce their vice president saying or doing things, especially like this is a very weird situation where there's kind of two scenarios here. Either because you're right, the obvious like politically advantageous thing to do would be to say, hey, definitely don't go into the West Bank, guys. We can't have you doing that, because I think I said this yesterday, TJ, or I might have said it last week, whatever. Netanyahu has every incentive to cause as much chaos as possible leading up to November to hurt Kamala's chances of winning, because he wants Trump in office. Because if Trump's in office, he gets to stay in power. If Kamala is in office, I think actually the biggest piece of evidence that Kamala will be harder on Israel is that this is happening. This is probably happening because Netanyahu needs to escalate and hurt Kamala's chances because he sees the writing on the wall. It kind of makes sense. But on the other side of that, you go, there isn't actually any like legal power Biden has to stop her from saying this. So like, she kind of should just come out and say it. It's electorally feasible. It's the right thing to do. And it's the longer she goes without saying it, the less I believe that she'll do anything, you know, to make progress with Israel and Gaza and Palestine and everything. EK, how have you been reading Kamala in general, and how you expect her to respond to it, how you want her to respond to this, how you expect her to respond to this, and how you think she will respond to this?
Okay. So like I want to say one more thing on this whole topic before I answer that. Because I've often said that like Israel is like the least safe place on earth, like for Jewish people. Like this, like so
there's probably some less safe places, but yeah, in general, yeah.
Like I would rank Israel number one.
They're certainly less safe than they are here, people.
Yeah,
I will tell you.
The continuation of this, especially with them moving into the West Bank now, is not only making Israel a less safe place or an unsafe place for Jewish people, but it's making the world a less safe place for Jewish people. Like me as a content creator, like I have to argue with people in my comments, telling them not to be anti-Semitic, like, or not to say stuff that is clearly anti-Semitic. I've seen several other content creators saying, hey, don't say no anti-Semitic stuff like that. Like this is not going to help with that. Like this is only going to like make things much more difficult for Jewish people. I mean, the lion's share of a lot of these protests and student movements and everything have been a bunch of Jewish kids. You know, they are always the one that we put out at the forefront. Say, hey, like they get in front of the TV camera and they say, hey, I'm Jewish. I don't want this to happen. Like this is not going to help any of that. So like, as far as what I feel about how Kamala Harris and like what she, like, I'll tell you, like, I had some hope. I allowed myself to feel a bit of hope, you know, all the way up until the last day of the DNC when they didn't allow a Palestinian speaker. Like, we even got to see the speech that the woman was going to forget what her name is, the woman from Georgia. We got to see what she was going to say. It wasn't, you know, inciting anything. She was trying to back Kamala. Those votes are for Kamala. The people are protesting so hard at the Harris Waltz rallies because they want to vote for her. They are dying for her to give them something, like to allow them to be okay with voting for her, and she's not doing it. You know, and hearing her say in that speech, no, like Israel has the right to defend itself, and I'm going to make sure they have everything they need. It's like it's not sending the message that it needs to send. Like all of the hope I had, like, was just completely let out of me with that, and the whole we have the most lethal, like, military or whatever she said. It's like, who are we beefing with right now like that? Who is beefing with us right now? Like, who wants this smoke? Like, you see what our weapons can do. Like, I don't think anybody is trying to call down this level of smoke. Like, even China is not trying to call down this level of smoke with the whole thing with Taiwan. It's be like, hey, we would appreciate if you didn't. Like, they're sending us random messages, like, you know, saying, hey, you know, like, we don't want to beef with y'all like that, but, you know, this Taiwan thing, we don't want no smoke though. So, like, I don't understand why we are putting all of this shit out there like that. It's so I just look at her and I'm like, what are you? I mean, so one, I think the speech really felt like it was written for Biden, and then somebody just kind of backspaced across the first few paragraphs and then added some anecdotes about like Kamala's upbringing. But like, you got to separate yourself from him, and you got to show, like, because the Democratic Party overwhelmingly, even the people that are beefing with folks right now over Palestine and how that should affect your vote, still want a ceasefire. they still want, you know, something to be done. Like for this whole Gaza situation, people still tired of seeing, you know, dead bodies on, you know, Instagram or TikTok every day. People still tired of seeing, you know, people's pleas for help and GoFundMe's and stuff like that popping up on everybody's phone and the fake out videos and stuff like that. So people need a resolution. People want something from her, and she's just not giving it to us.
Yeah, the speech was kind of a letdown looking at it. There was one part in there where she said something like, we need to make sure we do our best to stop the murder of Israeli citizens by the terrorists in the Hamas terrorists, and like the destruction that they're causing. We need to get Hamas, and we also need to help the people suffering in Gaza. It's like, so like a very one, like,
spoke about it like there was a natural disaster.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like no responsibility. No one's taking action to cause these deaths. You know, it's kind of like the way we report police killings here. You know, someone died or someone lost their life. But so it seems like they know what side their bread is buttered on. And yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Because that's a good point that, you know, she still is part of the Biden administration. And there are certain things you can and cannot say when you're part of the administration, but you are running for office yourself, which is separate from your duties as part of the administration. So yeah, I just don't really know how that's going to end up. And what you were saying, John, that Netanyahu is making this action because he believes that Trump would be better for him than Harris would be. But he wouldn't know, I guess, because Biden gives him pretty much everything he wants to. It's not as if Biden is holding him back. But Harris would be at least a wild card. If nothing else, he doesn't precisely know exactly how she would behave. And she did at least do something performatively by, like, you know, not attending his speech and meeting with him in private. Who knows what she told him in private, that he could be operating on that information as well. Oh, good.
Well, no, continue. Finish your point.
So he might be operating on that information as well. So yeah, like I hate that Netanyahu it controls so much of our actions as a nation, that, you know, we're kind of tied to his whims. And seeing like I hadn't seen the statement you shared of people, you know, in Israel and the Israeli government talking about how clearly fascist this was. And that's really saying something, because you watch stuff that's said by the Israeli government about, you know, Palestinians in general. It is some awful shit. So I don't know. I'm not holding out a lot of hope that things will be going better. But I want to point out something real quick that Word of Echo said, that I would be surprised if the average American knows the difference between Gaza and the West Bank. That's true. That's actually a really good point, that if they probably wouldn't know what you're talking about. Like, they've probably heard the terms Gaza and the West Bank, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they saw it on a map. Like, West Bank makes you think it's on the western side of Israel when it's actually on the eastern side.
Yeah,
and so I can see
that confused me for a couple of years.
Yeah. So for those of you out there wondering what we're talking about, if we had a map here, Israel, like on the southwest corner is where Gaza is. It's this tiny little strip of land that they shoved 2 million people into. And Israel is basically the north, the center of the north and the south. And on the eastern side of the country is a large tract of land called the West Bank. And it's called that because it's the west bank of the Jordan River, which is like the eastern border of Israel. And, John, have it here. Okay, yeah, so the pink area is right there. So the large pink area is the West Bank, and it's west of the Jordan River, not west of Israel. But that's a good point, that people wouldn't even know what you're talking about. I guess if you could burn into the collective consciousness that this is a different occupied territory of Palestinian land, that that Israeli settlers have been, you know, clearing out house by house. And now they're clearing out giant blocks in the name of stopping terrorism. And by the way, bulldozing everything to the ground. I think it's a message that could resonate if it was put out, but I guess I wouldn't trust American media to get that correct.
So what Word Echo said, that the average American doesn't know the difference in Gaza and the West Bank. I'd wager that that's true.
Yeah.
But I can tell you for fucking sure, way more Americans know the difference now than they did 10 months ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I said this when this happened, back in October. We're about to be in October again. Goddamn.
That's wild. Yeah.
I can't believe it's been going. Like,
I know.
I couldn't believe the Ukraine thing was going on so long, but like, this is like, I cannot believe that this is drawn on so long. Anyway, what I said back in October, I was like, this is very bad for Israel, because Israel, if it had just continued to operate how it was, could have just kept doing this forever. Like America would have been by its side forever. They could have continued to occupy the West Bank. They could continue to, house by house settle and just slowly over the course of decades ethnically cleanse Palestine. They were on the track. It would have. There was no stopping it. But this has made everyone aware of it. We all didn't. I mean, by we all, I fucking talked about it, but it was a scary thing to talk about. I remember when this first started happening in October, we were terrified. It was you and when we still had Erica and we saw Desmond here, like we were talking about. We're like, how much should we talk about this? Because we were scared. Because of the reaction that we always got was censorship, was being called anti-Semitic. This was the status quo for my entire lifetime. And now it's in vogue to talk about. If you're under the age of 30, it's almost expected of you to be pro-Palestinian. It is a very common topic of discussion in America now. And that's the worst thing Israel could have possibly done to itself, because the evidence is undisputable. Like if you, and again, as we said with like Gaza, like, yeah, there's so much fucked up shit there, but at least there's some arguments to be made. There is no arguments to be made for why Israel gets to occupy the West Bank. There is no reasonable argument to be made. And the more people look into that, the more people go, wait a fucking second, what else is fucked up here? And that's if the American and it's already over. Like, as I said, everyone, like, I don't know, probably 80% of the population under 30 is pro-Palestinian. By the time, enough old people die and enough young people grow up, like, it's going to be over. America's going to stop supporting Israel, and it's all their own doing. And it's the worst possible thing for them. And if they continue to invade the West Bank like this, well, more people are going to learn that difference. And it won't be too long until the average American damn well knows the difference between the West Bank and Gaza. And it's beyond dumb. What Netanyahu's doing, even if he's trying to accomplish the goals that he wants to accomplish, it's the dumbest possible way to go about it.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is, like, they have completely lost the younger generation for sure, but like, it might take too long before the younger generation.
And that's the calculus, EK. That's the calculus now. It's like, oh, we gotta kill them all now, because in 20 years there will no longer be an America.
Yeah, it's like you gotta protest, you gotta make it, you gotta organize. It's like, because dude, if this goes on one more year, like, bro, it's like just trying to imagine what they could be. Or 4 years of a Harris presidency, that's like, Biden has roughly like 80% of the same like policy towards Israel as Biden. It'll be horrific.
But that's the other thing you guys were talking about, the speech, and I agree with you. The speech was incredibly disheartening, but she called for an independent state of Palestine. She said that the Palestinian people have the right to self-determination, which is something that U.S. presidents do not say. Like that would have never come out of her mouth a year ago, or anyone campaigning for president. It would have never come out of their mouths. It would have been political suicide to say that the Palestinian people have the right to self-determination. That I should be hearing that and being like, well, that's a massive step in the right direction. If that had just been, none of this had happened and she had said that, I would have been like, oh my God, she's the most pro-Palestinian politician of my lifetime. But this is how bad it's gotten. Like the people have moved past it already. And it's just, it's sad to know what the end result of this calculus is. Like, it's really sad, and that's why I'm kind of like, okay, well, something needs to be done, because Gaza was already destroyed. There is now a lot more open playing field with a lot more people in danger. That it will happen if a red line isn't drawn, and it's really, really, really scary to think about. All right, guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you didn't know how we do this, we cut the same outro for every single episode. So you either just had a great time laughing your ass off, or you are desperately depressed like we are now, since we're doing it after the Israel episode. But either way, if you want more content like this, very much encourage you to like and subscribe. And if you liked what our good friend EK here had to say, EK, how about you tell people where they can find you?
Okay, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at What's Good English. I talk about some stuff there. Been on a bit of a hiatus from burnout, but I might not be burned out anymore. There might be some more videos in the works. We'll see.
That's where we look forward to it, EK. Thanks for joining us, everybody. The Left Wing, sponsored by the Israeli government, Los Pollos Hermanos, and the Umbrella Corporation, bringing you the best entertainment possible. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you guys next time.